Hi everyone, Lisa Sains-Peck from Spellbound Miniatures here, and today we're going to show you how to use our SVG pattern files to create some really cool effects for your miniature projects. But first, let's go over to Design Space and I'll show you how to use the files. Okay, so here we are in Design Space. We've got a blank canvas. We go over to Upload and we'll click whatever pattern file it is that you're going to use. Now, don't panic when it comes in and it just looks black. The details are there. And this tutorial is for any of our SVG patterns. It doesn't matter that yours doesn't look like this. This is just an example. It's the same process for all of them. You'll see the green square, and normally we put that in to indicate 12th scale. But of course a pattern could be any size and scale, but when we put this in, we know that this pattern as it is will cut or deboss and fit on the mat. So if we hide the green square, because we don't want to cut that out, and click on the pattern now, you'll see it's just over 10.5 inches square. So you know that will fit on a sheet of craft board or chipboard or whatever you're using. You could make this larger or smaller by using either the drag button there or the dimensions up here, and you'll see there's two layers over here. They both say basic cut, but if we click one and we come over here and change it, for example, to draw, you'll suddenly see that this is the layer with the detail. And you could draw that, you could foil it, you could score it, deboss it or engrave it, and you could still cut it if you wanted to. If you want it, just click deboss and you'll see that the quality of the line changes, but it's the same pattern. And then you've got this basic cut layer underneath, and what that does will cut the outline shape. Otherwise, if you imagine you debossed it, you've still got all the excess material around the outside. You might not want that, and I'll show you why. So another thing that you'll want to do is attach the deboss layer to the basic cut layer. So click attach, and then when you click make it, you'll see that it's all on one mat and it will deboss it first and then cut it. So always click attach, and if we just come in and we'll zoom out slightly and we'll show you why we don't have the straight edges here. If we duplicate this, and you might want to, for example, cut two sheets on deboss, two sheets of craft board. If your flooring was bigger than 10.5 inches, you would be able to lay them together like that in your dollhouse or room box and create a seamless floor tile, for example, or wall tile pattern. So that's why these SVG files typically don't have a straight edge, because you may want to tessellate them together and make a continuous piece of craft board or wall tiles or whatever you are using this for. So if you ever get into any problems and it doesn't look how you think it should look on the mat, just always make sure you've attached the pattern file to the basic cut file, which is the overall outline. And then of course when you click make it, it will put them onto the mats, and it will then, if you follow the instructions, choose the material that you're using, and it will instruct you to put in the debossing tip if you're debossing, or the foiling tip, the drawing. If you're drawing it, you could put a pen or a metallic pen in, and I've even foiled some of these patterns. So follow the instructions for Design Space, put in the required tools, and you will end up with a fabulous continuous pattern. And we'll go back now and I'll show you exactly how I've used some of these patterns to create some really cute flooring examples and wall tiles for our houses. So this first example, I used the foiling tip and some gold foil, and I used it on the Art Deco mermaid scale or fish scale pattern. I did gold foil on black craft board and it really popped well, and you could use this even as a decor panel if you didn't want to use it as a wall tile. So this is a bit I really love, and it's just peeling back the foil to see the pattern that it's made. And I've only done this on a small sample sheet here. Of course, you could do this as large as a piece of craft board if you wanted to. And here's a close-up of that, and I'm really impressed with the Cricut foiling tool. It also works really well on things like picture frames. The next pattern we're going to look at is the stretcher bond. That would be typically for house bricks, but also for subway tiles. And I debossed this onto some white craft board to make a very effective subway tile. You would best be using photo paper for this that you would put in the printer, because it comes out already with a nice glossy shine to it. Or you could lacquer or varnish this. Also, I'd suggest using a spray lacquer or varnish to get a nice smooth coat. The next pattern is the octagon and diamond, and this is going to be a very traditional version. I cut the pattern in black and white craft board. You can see here it cuts out the little diamonds separately. I then debossed the pattern onto some white craft board and used that as a template to fit the white tiles on and the black diamonds, and just work your way across the sheet to create the size of flooring that you want. I did go over the debossed edge with the Cricut scoring pen, and that just gave a little bit more definition to the tile edges. It also meant I didn't need to even grout them, because it kind of looked like it had been grouted. Again, you could varnish this or even use a layer of Mod Podge to sort of protect it and create a nice satin finish. This next pattern, the Versailles panel, you could simply deboss onto brown craft board, but if you want to make it a little bit more visually effective, I cut 2 lots from craft board and debossed a third. I then used brown shoe polish to colour in one of the cut layers, the same way that I did the herringbone floor. And I'll put a link to that video on the screen now. I then took one of the small triangles from the brown piece of craft board and I placed it onto the debossed pattern in the same place. I took the lighter craft board and a piece from that and put that on the same place on the debossed panel, and slowly worked my way through all the pieces, making sure that I sort of kept a note of which bits should be darker and lighter, and just worked my way through the pattern until I had a complete panel. You can see it leaves the reverse panel also back on the mat. So I then decided to do the reverse panel next door to the first one. And then I did the same thing for 2 more panels to create a quite effective quadrant. Of course, you could stick to doing the panels in all the same way, i.e. all light trellis and dark squares, that's up to you. And then I varnished this with a gloss varnish and sanded it down in between coats and slowly built them up to sort of create the really nice high gloss effect that you might have had on a flooring like this back in the day. So I hope that's given you some helpful ideas. Whether you simply want to cut tiles, to deboss a pattern, or even draw a pattern, You can scale them up or down, tessellate them and join them on if you want to, and make them as simple or complicated as you'd like to by mixing up the different colours of craft board or matte board if you want to make them in an even thicker material. I'll put a link to these pattern files in the description below. Thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you soon.